My name is Stephen Bucher. I am a product manager on the PowerShell team, and I'm here to talk a little bit about a new product that we released this year called AI Shell. Obviously, it is a big thing, so we're going to dive into it, how you can use it, what you can learn about it, and kind of how it can accelerate your PowerShell experience here. So first, I'll start off with kind of a question. So how many shells do you guys recognize here? Do you guys recognize these ones? Any, you have a couple hands? You guys all, what about that one? Anyone recognize that one? I don't. But there's a lot of different shells. It's been a staple of pretty much all of computer science since its very beginning. I remember when I was first learning computer science, the CLI and the shell was the very first thing I started with. And I was so confused. How do you start with anything? How do I know what to type? How do I know what to do? How do I do anything? And slowly I learned about the different ways that shells can help you with tab completion, man pages, get help, all these different little inbox things, but still the amount of capabilities that you can do in the shell is almost endless. And so we've kind of observed this where the prompt is intimidating. It's just blinking at you with a black, screen there. It's kind of like, oh, what can I do? Can I destroy my whole machine? Can I wipe out my fleet? Can I, change the world with it? You can do a lot with it. And, there's an exponential growth of these different commands here. I know you can't read this, and that's kind of purposeful, but that's the number of parameters for just creating a VM in Azure. And yeah, there's more actually. So, the Azure PowerShell set of commandlets has over 6,000 commands. How many know all of them? Can you recite? You want to start now? We can go through. Okay. So Azure CLI has 10,000 commands. And so like I said, this is the Azure CLI command one. The Azure PowerShell one looked exactly the same. And I don't know if you could, that's not all of them. It keeps going and going. And so if anyone can name every single parameter, well, I'll give you one of these or something. I don't know. But it's growing and growing. Microsoft Graph commands have over 50,000 different commands. This is starting to get kind of ridiculous here, right? And these are only, just starting to get ridiculous. It's pretty ridiculous. So and these are only just the subset of commands that, we kind of had control over, that we work with the teams for. This is not counting anything like Docker, kubectl, the PowerShell, the inbox PowerShell module commands, stuff you've built. It's pretty much infinite. And I kind of mentioned that tab completion is super helpful with kind of getting these commands and stuff. But getting started is pretty hard sometimes. If you're not a PowerShell pro like you guys. It's not always the best thing to do. I'll tab through everything, but I may not know exactly what this means. I may not know what it does, and we've done some things to help you with that in PowerShell itself. But what I hear a lot from people who are trying to learn PowerShell or try to learn, how to automate their tasks is it's still difficult to learn and go through the process to do it. And like I said, the combination of parameters is too complex. There's optional ones, which ones are optional, which ones are required, what are the types. It's not always clear, especially with cloud services and these other very advanced panes of using. And so we observed this a long time ago, and we've always been trying to improve the interactive experience in PowerShell. We've done predictive IntelliSense, we've improved tab completion, we've had dynamic help, but there's still kind of a gap there. And so we went out and started exploring how we could utilize AI to better help you in the CLI. And so in comes AI Shell. I love this logo, so you're going to see it everywhere on my slides here. But I figure let's just jump into it. Oh no, here we go. Well, this guy. Oh, well, that's not going to do me well. Give me 1 second here. If it will load. There we go. All right, fantastic. Yes, and you'll notice on my screen, and this is actually purposeful, I have a completely frozen Power BI desktop. And I promise that is purposeful at the moment. So let's do this. I'm going to open up my Windows terminal with PowerShell 7, and don't you worry, I will zoom in. Is that a bit better? There we go. Okay. So we wanted to create a very simple experience for you to access a variety of different AI assistants. So all you got to do is type in the command start AI shell. And this will open up a side pane in your experience that prompts you to say, hey, these are kind of some of the AI agents that are available to you. I'll talk a little bit about more of those later, but first let's just dive into a generic OpenAI agent. So this is the same exact experience that you get from opening up ChatGPT online, if you have Azure OpenAI. This opens up a side pane here where I can say, just any kind of questions I want. Right now, I have it prompted to be a PowerShell expert. So it's going to try its best to help me with PowerShell as best it can. But an important note is it still can hallucinate. This is as good. This is not a pre-trained thing. This is a very generic kind of model. But for some of the generic stuff, it can kind of help me get part of the way. So I'll just say something like, what are the 10 most CPU intensive, and we have predictive IntelliSense in this as well. So here it will kind of like, hey, here you go. Here's like your PowerShell command and stuff. That's great for me. I will confess, I am on the PowerShell team, but I do forget PowerShell commands sometimes. And I know I shouldn't be saying that. My boss is in the room, but I promise this is why we built this, is to help you remember and help you kind of accelerate your workflows within PowerShell. So I have this command, and that's great. I can copy and paste it, but that's kind of clunky. So why don't I run a command here called code post. And this will actually post the code directly into my working shell. What we learned early on is AI can do it. We don't want AI to have complete access to your CLI yet. It's not something that we feel comfortable with, and I'm sure I see you guys nodding a bit like, yeah, you don't want that, right? So we wanted to make sure we have a clear separation between, hey, on the left is your working terminal, just as normal. On the right is your AI shell, or your terminal there. And so now I can run this command, and it's a little poorly formatted here, but let's see, I'll zoom out a bit and just run that again, just so I can see. Okay, yeah, so you can't really see it here, but there's this pesky little Power BI process that's completely hung. And so one thing that we do a lot is kind of, and I'm sure you guys do it a lot, is act upon this output, right? You get this output, you kind of figure out what you need upon it, on it, and kind of build upon it. And so we've created another command here called invoke AI shell. So I can say, help me stop the PBI desktop process. And so it's going to send the output of that command directly to the AI agent here. And it will know, okay, it looks like the Power BI one is ID 40536. And it says, hey, here's the command to stop the process. And so now I can do the same thing. I can actually use a hotkey here, Control-DD, to post it here. And I can kill that process. And if you were noticing on my taskbar, Power BI is now stopped, right? The very just simple example of some generic PowerShell assistance for listening processes, stopping processes, doing that sort of thing. But there's another scenario that I think everyone here in this room has probably encountered. Raise your hand if you've never had an error in the CLI. You've never encountered an error. Has anyone? Yeah. Anyone who puts their hand up is just lying. I think that's a big experience of when you're building out your automation scripts, building out your commands and stuff. It's trial and error, and that is an expected thing. But oftentimes, sometimes you hit errors that are just extremely confusing and extremely vague or not super helpful. And so we wanted to make sure that we added a flow for you to help you with these errors. So let's just take this last example here, and I'm just going to be deleting this, and I'm going to just mistype a bunch of things. Doesn't really matter here. But you can see, okay, well, I got an error like, okay, sort object is not recognized. Okay, well, I got to fix that. But, oh, well, shoot, descending is now dending, and first is now FTS. Like, it's not going to know all these errors. We've created a commandlet to send your error object from PowerShell directly into your AI agent, so you can kind of quickly and easily remediate these errors. So all it is called resolve-error. And fix it. There we go. There's a conflict with some of the Azure CLI, or sorry, the Azure PowerShell command, but it's also alias to fix it. So you can see here, it sends the entire error object there, and it finds all the different errors that way, and gives me the remediated command. Of course, you can use this for a lot more complicated errors, and it can try its best to help you. But this is, an AI. It can be wrong. It can be not always correct, but we do think this is a good starting point to help you remember some of the basic commands, accelerate yourself in some more of the generic kind of PowerShell commands that way. And so that's a little bit about some of the flows that we have with AI Shell on the agent side. But let's go back and talk about kind of what we went over here. Come on. There we go. It likes to switch back to my Windows machine for whatever reason. But so what I just showed was the OpenAI GPT agent. This is an AI agent that is compatible with any AI model that has an OpenAI compatible API schema. That's a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it means that any AI that kind of has a basic structure of chat completion will work with this model. And so you can add your own endpoint for OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, Google Gemini complies with this standard, Grok does as well, Ollama, which is a local LLM provider, local AI, and a bunch more different ones kind of comply with this model. So any of those ones you can configure as your AI provider for this agent here. But like I said, it's generic. There's no particular prompting unless you've done something on the back end or anything. But one thing that you can do to make it a lot better is use Azure OpenAI as kind of your base structure, as your AI provider for this agent. And so what that means is, who's familiar with Azure OpenAI? Is anyone kind of vaguely familiar? Essentially, you can think of it as an Azure service that you can deploy your own OpenAI model. You have control of the model. You can do things like filtering. You can do things like throttling. You can do things like limited access and things like that. I'll be talking about that more actually in the session after this one. But essentially, it's your own private OpenAI. And so that one is great because you can control the data. You don't have to worry about what OpenAI is going to be doing with this data or whatever AI provider you can. And so you can tie it to your own instance of Azure OpenAI. This makes things manageable, selection of models, like I said, content safety, and quota management. You can also train it against your own data as well. I'll be talking about that a lot more in the next session here, but if you really wanted to, you can train it against your own specific company data or particular subset of information. For example, I created a AI provider that is really, really good at Docker commands. I was able to find a big data set of Docker commands of like, hey, help me list out the images that have port 80 open, and it would give me that Docker command. So I used that data to actually train a model that is really good at helping me with Docker commands. And so you can do something similar with that if you'd really like. But the most important thing that I think I wanted to kind of emphasize with utilizing Azure OpenAI is ensuring your data stays with you. I've talked to a lot of folks this week about kind of data privacy and data security around AI, and it's clear that a lot of companies are still worried about having their data sent to these third-party AI companies and not sure what they're going to do with it. And so this provides a solution for you, so you can use AI Shell with with Azure OpenAI and ensure that your data is safe and not being used for retraining or any other sort of thing. And then it's just authenticated with keys and things like that. So I'll show an example configuration here. But talking a little bit more about AI Shell's capabilities. AI Shell is a cross-platform tool, so it works on Linux, Mac, and Windows, of course. It works best in Windows Terminal and with PowerShell 7. We do have Mac support working. If you are a Mac user, you'd like to have this kind of side pane experience. There's also something we call a standalone experience that takes up your whole shell, so you can just ask it questions, get back responses if that's your flow. We encourage folks to try the side pane experience just because it's a little bit better for here's my work, here's my AI assistance. You kind of get that separation, and you don't have your buffer completely being written over when you get a long AI response. You kind of have a good separation of things. So yeah, this is like the sidecar experience that I demoed where you have your work there and your AI shell experience there. There's all these meta language prompts here. So if I go back to, it's going to do it again, and show. Come on. There we go. Uh-oh. Can I write? Okay. So there's a bunch of these meta language commands that you can use to switch agents, use different GPTs. You can run code post. You can also code save to save it to a file. So I can save, if I get a long chunk of code and I actually want to edit it from this AI assistant, I can run /code save to a file, open it up in VS Code, and then get GitHub Copilot and just be on my merry way with that. I can also run code copy, which will copy things to my clipboard. So let me just do another example. How do I create a function for converting F to C, Fahrenheit to Celsius? And it will create me a very simple function here, but I can do something like code copy. And so now it's actually going to just copy it to my clipboard, and I can paste it and run it and get my function now in my session and test things out and build upon it. If I get errors, I can resolve the error and try to help create that flow and build upon it that way. But that's kind of the basic experience here. Let me go back to my slides here. Let's see, how am I doing on time? Okay, we're doing just good on time. Why does it not like this? All right. Well, I'll just mention this one thing, and then I'll jump back to the demo anyways. But AI Shell is not a model. It is not a AI to help you with PowerShell. It is an AI client. So it is the client that you use to access a variety of different AI assistants and a variety of different AI models. It's up to you to kind of bring those and have that kind of group of experts that you can talk to. We have a great analogy to kind of help with this AI agents is you kind of have a round table of experts. Imagine AI Shell is kind of the table, and all the experts are the different AI models that you kind of register with it. And you're sitting down at the table saying, hey, you're a pro with Docker commands. Can you help me with Docker commands? You're a pro with just general PowerShell commands. Help me with general PowerShell commands. I know you might be wrong, but at least you can get me some of the way there, right? Or there's an Azure one that is great at Azure commands and comes from a much more trusted source. And I'll be talking about that one right after this. But it's extremely extensible. You can add the different agents that you'd like to help you out as best you can. And so the best way we've described it is sitting down at a table of experts and just being able to talk to each one and help them. And each one will provide different assistance and help for you. But I want to talk about one of those people at the table, the Copilot in Azure agent. Who is familiar with the Copilot in Azure? Anyone vaguely familiar? Okay. So some exciting news. This is the Copilot that you get kind of in the portal. You'll see the button at the top right in the portal. It officially became generally available yesterday. So definitely give it a try. We've worked really, really hard to make sure it has advanced Azure PowerShell skills available in that. So you can use it to, if you're having trouble managing your Azure machines with Azure PowerShell, we really want the Copilot to be there to help you. And so let's talk a little bit more about that. So I'm just going to clear my screen here. I'm going to actually refresh just so I can kind of clear things. How do I talk to this other expert? I'm going to use a syntax that is starting to catch on a lot more with AI clients, but I'm going to say, hey, at Azure, and I'm going to swap to my Copilot in Azure agent, or the Azure agent, I'll just call it. And this guy connects you to the exact same Copilot that you get in the portal. However, it's a little bit, it knows that you're in the shell. And so it's not going to be suggesting to you commands and things that you can't run in the shell. It's going to be really trying to help you with assisting you with things like Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell. There might be a little Terraform sprinkled in there, but primarily that's the main use case with things, and just generalized Azure knowledge in general. So all I have to do to use this guy is be logged in to Azure with either Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell. And then you'll have to have access to the Copilot in Azure. So if any of you have managed kind of Copilot access for in Azure, there's an RBAC role for a Copilot in Azure user. So if you don't want everyone in your company to have access to this, you can turn that off and manage it. If you don't have access to it in the portal, you're not going to have access to it here. We're really trying to keep parity between the portal experience and the shell experience. So you can be assured that you have the management capabilities to restrict access if need be. But yeah, let's just dive right into it. This is a completely free service, so right now you can download AI Shell and log into Azure and get this pretty much right out of the box. Do the exact same things that I'm going to be demoing here today. The previous one you'll have to configure and add some of your own agents, endpoints and things, but we also have some awesome documentation. I'll be talking about that more in the next session as well, but I'll talk about that a little today if I got time. So let's just do something pretty similar. It's pretty simple. How do I create a resource group with AZ PowerShell? You are limited in the number of responses you get, but it's about like, I think you get 10 chat sessions with 15 questions in each chat session over an 8-hour period. So you get like 150 chats, a day, which I think will be plenty for anyone. But yeah, so it helps me with Azure PowerShell commands and things like this. So I can kind of get the assistance. What we really spend a lot of time working on is making sure that these commands are syntactically correct. We are trying our best to limit hallucinations to ensure that you guys get the most high quality and effective commands for using Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell. So that's one of the things we really want to uphold with this model, and with any assistance you get from our copilots is the quality of things. So you'll see here, it doesn't really know what I need to do yet. I create a new resource group. It doesn't know what name I want to do. It doesn't know what location I want to do. But you'll see here it kind of says, hey, you can run /replace to get assistance with some of these placeholder values. So why don't I run that and let's see what happens here. So this will walk me through replacing you notice I had 2 placeholder values here, and I have to put in the values for the resource group name and the location. And so I can just say Summit 2025 RG, and you'll notice it kind of has a recommended pattern here. I will hit enter here, location, East US. Sometimes it's a little buggy right now, but we will have a drop down to actually walk you through all the different locations, and with your own resource groups, it will have a drop down. So it will probably work on the next one. It's one of we're in preview right now. We're not fully released yet. So it will regenerate these commands for me, and now I have a more runnable command. And so now it says, hey, you can run code post to run this. So let's use that same command here, Control D. I'm going to create a new resource group and run that command, and it will work its magic behind the scenes and create that resource group, hopefully. There you go. So I've created, my resource group. Pretty simple example here. We do have, kind of history, and so it will like kind of take over these other things. So help me create a storage account with AZ PowerShell. A more advanced kind of scenario where I can ask it to create me a storage account with Azure PowerShell. It's going to be generating me the PowerShell scripts for this. It's going to know the previous history, so it's it's going to assume that I kind of want to use the previous resource group and the previous location. I of course can change that if I'd like, but you'll notice that I actually have far less placeholders, and now it says, oh, here's a storage account name. So let's do place here, ST Steven, whatever. And I'll get the full storage account here, and I can copy and paste it, or I can code post it here. I learned last night as I was doing these demos that our company has a policy, so I cannot just do this. It's going to fail. But trust me and when I say that you can create a new storage account pretty easily here. So I can try something else where I can say, actually I'm going to refresh it so everyone can kind of see it from a start, and we can create me a resource group and an app insights instance with AZ CLI. I'll do this with Azure CLI just so you can also see the mix of things. We support both languages. Obviously, I know a lot of folks here prefer PowerShell, so we have full parity between the two as far as features. But this will kind of show off some of the other experiences here. It kind of says, oh yeah, these are some of the last things that you did. I'm going to run /replace. It's getting some of the data. Here we go. So this is what I wanted to show off, where we are actually able to get the possible values that you can replace these parameters with. Right here, if you've seen PowerShell Predictive IntelliSense before, this is the same kind of experience here, but I can use the up arrow key to just be like, okay, I want to, these are all the different locations available to me. You may forget, what locations you want or forget the exact syntax, but I can also, of course, say, oh, okay, what EU ones do I have? I can kind of filter it out that way. I'll do North Europe for whatever reason, and I'll say Steven-AI for application invites, environment, and login analytics workspace. I'm going to say my workspace, and it will generate the commands, and now I can code post things again and go through the experience that way. But I want to highlight kind of we're trying to help you replace parameters much easier, because at first the Copilot doesn't really know what you want to do, but over time it will learn and understand better that, hey, you want these resource groups, you want this kind of thing, let's suggest these going forward. But that's something we're working on right now. So if there's kind of suggestions you have in that front, definitely let us know. Let's see here. Hopefully this will work. Is that my, why is it showing my Spotify? I don't even know what I was doing. Let me quit that. First it was showing couches, now Spotify. I really should have checked why is it, come on. Oh, Lord. It's the Windows VM I'm blaming. I just need to, forget about the full screen. There we go. Gosh. Okay. So yeah, let's just talk about a little bit about what I kind of showed off here, which is the @Azure agent. It gives you assistance directly in the command line with command line operations for managing Azure. So this can help you with general Azure kind of questions. You can ask it things like, what kind of resources are available in this location? Can you tell me more about what App Insights is? Could you tell me more about what's needed on a storage account? It will help answer those kind of questions. And then what I showed off was some of the Azure CLI and Azure PowerShell assistance for kind of getting started and getting automated with these commandlets and these commands. what I mentioned before, roles and permissions, it requires you to be logged into Azure. It uses the user's security context. You can't access resources beyond their context. And we rely on the RBAC role, Copilot and Azure user. So like I said, I know a lot of folks work in identity management and kind of management of access here. So we are we take that very seriously and try to make sure we have that. So yeah, here's the graphic of kind of selection of the different agents. Here's the kind of startup page and the access control manager here. So this is a lot. You might ask yourself, why don't I just Google search this like on the side here? And you absolutely can, and we encourage that. This experience we find to be kind of more beyond search. It helps you with command and usage guidance. It helps you set the parameter values and kind of walks you through these kind of experiences. Whether you're a beginner user or an advanced user, you can use this to help you remember these commands and or just speed up your work, because maybe you did this a month ago, maybe you totally forget what these commands were. You want to kind of remember what it is. And it has knowledge of end-to-end scenarios and best practices. So you're not always just running one single command and then you're done. You have to do a number of prerequisites, you have to do a number of pre-provisioning of certain things, and then you can go on your way. And so the Copilot in Azure is a lot more advanced in that regard. And that's the other thing. So responsible AI. Microsoft, we take responsible AI extremely, extremely seriously. There is no personal or company data that is stored or reused within the @Azure agent or any Copilot in Azure interface that you're using it in. We only save the data when you choose to save your data. We have these commands like and dislike. You probably see the thumbs up and thumbs down in the experience. That's the only, and when you do that, we ask you, hey, would you like to share your chat history with us to help us improve the experience? That's the only time any data is being saved. Otherwise, it is completely private, is completely anonymous, like we don't know anything. So that's a little bit about the experience, but how many, I'm curious, so how many folks use the terminal all the time when they're scripting? Does anyone? So you use it, but do you write like long scripts? Like we're talking like 20-line, 30-line scripts in the terminal? Some people do, and that's great. That's why we have this experience for you. We want to help you with those kind of experience. But it can sometimes be a little cumbersome, at least personally for me. So sometimes we get the question of like, oh man, I don't want these kind of experiences to be in the shell. Like, why are you doing it there? We want to help you with these one-off experiences, and we're working very closely with the VS Code team so that we can bring the same experience and the same knowledge that you saw here with the Copilot in Azure to VS Code with the GitHub Copilot for Azure extension. So using GitHub Copilot, you can do the same @Azure experience and get the high quality, personalized Azure commands generated for you. It's graduating from single commands to more complicated scripts. It has the same CLI and PowerShell knowledge that the AI shell has, and so we've tried to keep it very consistent as far as kind of the assistance that you'll get across these experiences. It's available now with the extension version. Anything above that, I actually am not sure what version they're on lately. I think they might have did a release like last week, so I might be a little behind. But if you want to learn more, here's some kind of links and stuff to it. But in the Copilot chat pane, you can run the same, hey, @Azure, help me with so-and-so thing or whatever, and it can help you there. But the thing I just kind of want to emphasize is we're trying to bring the power of Copilot to wherever you work. It can be in the Azure portal, it can be in AI shell, it can be in VS Code. We want to make sure that you get the assistance that you need where you need it. And so yeah, we're working really hard to kind of make sure that these experiences are the same across the board here. But yeah, so like I said, the Azure agent is one of those experts at the table. Let's talk about kind of extensibility, about getting other experts at this AI table. We have the experience, so we are a platform experience for extensibility, so you can build and bring your own agent. This includes, like I said, models that are trained specifically on company documents, or if you're kind of network restricted or bandwidth restricted, you can use and connect to small language models that are specific to your computer here. And maybe if I have time, I'll show off that demo. But we have in-depth documentation on how to create your own advanced agent at this link here, aka.ms/AI shell create agent. I will say it is pretty complicated with some C# experiences, but we do have an experience if you just have the endpoint and key, you can kind of light it up pretty easily there. So I will be talking about that more in next session, but kind of wanted to highlight in case you're interested in building out your own agent so you can do at my agent, that's kind of the experience there. You know what, why don't I show off the local agent here? So I'm going to actually be jumping into my Mac experience, and you'll see, oh, hang on. It's a little buggier on Mac, but Ollama runs faster, not in a VM, so I'm going to go to my Ollama agent. Okay. I am going to be turning off Wi-Fi for this because I think that's more impressive. How do I create a PowerShell function to say, hi, name, welcome to PSConf or PS Summit 2025. So this is an agent I made for the documentation. So the documentation we have will walk you through exactly what to do. And you can see here, without Wi-Fi, this is running on my machine. And it's not that slow. I have an M1 machine, but it is, I'm able to get the same functionality here, and I can even run the code post in some of the windows here. It's a little buggy there, but hey John, welcome to PSConf. So if you're John, hi. But that's kind of the power of the extensibility. We know that we're not going to be able to create one single model that is going to help you with everything that you need. That's why we created this round table of experts, so you can say, hey, I need help with these kind of commands. I need help with these kind of commands. I need help, but only in this network, restrictions and those kind of things. So that's a little bit about that. And I think I have just enough time for kind of questions and stuff too. So we're in public preview with this. We're not finished. It's a little buggy. We'll admit that. We released this last November. We're currently on preview 3. But if you'd like to learn more about all the features and stuff I didn't have time to get to, give it a try, aka.ms/AI shell. It's a very simple install. This QR code should take you to our blog post that will install the latest preview for you and walk you through a lot of the things that I showed off here. We're also completely open source, as we on the PowerShell team are very committed to open source and community, so we have an open source repository. If you have any bugs or issues, please submit them to our GitHub repo. We are trying to actively improve this product, and we can't do it without you guys trying it out and giving it a go. We have a couple known limitations. Elevated mode in Windows Terminal kind of is a little bit buggy. We have some limited and some bugs with the Mac sidecar experience. There's currently no sidecar experience on Linux, but you can still call the AI shell executable and get some AI assistance. And it's a preview. It might be a little buggy, so bear with us on that, but that's what I kind of wanted to end on here. And yeah, thank you all so very much for coming. This is the normal feedback form you get, but I wanted to leave time for any questions. You have a question?
Yeah, real quick one. You mentioned the next session. I didn't see it on the schedule. Is it the LLM one that's tomorrow?
So there is an LLM one tomorrow. I don't see the folks who are presenting on it, but that one is different. But the one this afternoon is at 3:30. It's called Creating Intuitive AI Agents for AI Shell and PowerShell. We'll be talking about what the heck AI agents are. We're talking about a bunch of different kinds of AI agents and how they can help you in your daily work. So it's not just exclusive to AI Shell, it's kind of a generalized session as well around AI agents and how they can help you. So that's at 3:30. I think it's in the same room. I could be wrong, but it should be on the schedule there. I'm not, or you'll see Mike Nelson, who's in the back there. Yeah, yep. Yeah, so I can show that real quick if you'd like. Yeah, so you can keep it as a full screen experience here. Actually, I can show that in the Mac experience as well. I'm just going to open up a new. Let's see, do I have it? Oh, no. So what you can do, AI Shell is just an executable to kind of get in the weeds of things. So all I can do, I can simply just run it like this and get the same experience here. It's just full screened. Oh, and it's broken on my Mac, but OpenAI GPT. This one is not broken. And yes, I will zoom in. So you can see how do I, create me a PowerShell project for converting different currencies, something like that. Oh, and okay, well, that's because. Oh, Wi-Fi's off. Thank you. Good call. Very good call. Let's see if this will work now. Thank you. So we'll kind of walk through like, hey, here's a much more advanced thing, but if you wanted that kind of full screen experience, you can kind of get that and say, okay, these are my PowerShell. This is something to convert different currencies. Yeah. So that's what I say when I say a standalone experience. You can just call AI Shell and have access to these different things. This is the experience that's only available on Linux today, but you can use it, of course, in Windows and Mac as well. So you have another question? Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned for these end-to-end, more end-to-end and more best practices kind of, like say for the Azure one.
Yeah.
How often is that kind of update in this experience?
That's a good question. We try to update pretty regularly. We are continually adding new features and improving the quality on our Azure PowerShell and Azure CLI database. It's like monthly about, if I was to put a rough number on it. But yeah, we are continually like improving and adding new things as new things come along. So yeah, good question. Anything else? Yeah.
Can this be hooked up with my organization's Copilot so it's subject to the same enterprise data protection that like M365 Copilot is?
So yes, it can. There's a couple pieces that need to be connected first. We're looking into it. They have a C# SDK to connect it. So if you know some basic C#, you can definitely do it. But there's no like simple one-click button experience just yet. But yeah, being able to connect to the question was about M365 Copilot and your enterprise experience. You can definitely hook this up. It may take a couple of tweaks and things to actually do so, but we're aware of that and kind of working on that. So that's what the experience. I think I saw your hand first, yeah. No, so when you first start up, you gotta configure your agent experience. Let me see. I don't want to leak my key. That's why I'm like kind of dancing around it. So essentially, it will not work out of the OpenAI agent will not work out of the box. It will tell you, hey, run /agent config, and it will open up a config file where you put in your key, your endpoint and your key. It's very simple. It walks you through that. So that's what you'll need to do for the OpenAI one. The Azure one is pretty much works out of the box. All you have to do is have logged in to Azure CLI, logged into Azure with Azure CLI or Azure PowerShell using AZ space login or connect-AZ account, and it'll work. So it's that one's your kind of out of the box experience that way. But yeah, good question. Maybe I'll unplug and try to find that file and hide my stuff. All right, this is what the config file looks like. Oh no, one more key. Hang on. These are recorded, so I can refresh a lot of these keys, but not. So this is what the config file looks like. So you can register multiple GPTs with this agent. So this one is my Azure OpenAI instance, custom name, blah, whatever. This was something I was testing with. This one was with public OpenAI, and then I was playing around with Google Gemini as well. That's just commented out here. So you can have multiple ones, and then you can just change which one you want active by changing the active one. You can, of course, change it dynamically in the shell itself, so you don't have to be going into this config file super often. Oh, yeah. I'll open that again. It's /agent config. So /agent config. This is under the, we have a .ai shell under your user's file system. That's where it's stored there. You can see the path here, .ai shell, agent config, the agent itself, and then the JSON file right here in the top there. I don't think I can zoom that portion in, but that's where kind of all of our configuration stuff and all of our information is stored. So yeah. Oh, and I'm getting the clock time, so I think we're out of time. I'll stick around if anyone has other questions. Thank you very much.